Hello and welcome in everyone to the Lakers Outsiders podcast. It's been a little while since we've been on. Gary Kessler here hosting, joined by Hani Amadi. And Hani, it's been a while. How's your holiday season?
Pretty good. Got some cool gifts, like a poster of my own face.
I was going to ask you about that, and I was going to say, did you want to make any kind of public comment about that?
Look, man, there's a really cool picture of me, and by really cool, I mean really terrible picture of me on the internet. It makes me look like a club DJ, possibly the worst one ever. And should we call him out? I don't know if he wants his name out there, but he sent me a poster of my face, so who cares? Our good 12-year-old friend, Mr. Austin Green, who is a closet Clippers fan, sent me a poster of myself for Christmas, and it's a massive poster.
Oh man, I wish I was clever enough to be the one that sent you that, but hey, it's a team effort here at Lakers Outsiders. You know that we got to spread the wealth sometimes. Speaking of spreading the wealth, the Lakers beat the Memphis Grizzlies tonight, 116-102, thanks to Julius Randle tallying his third career triple-double tonight. I believe he had 19 points. Was it 14 rebounds, 11 assists? He was fantastic tonight. The Lakers had probably one of their best wins of the season. It was very convincing. They led most of the way throughout. I mean, probably by double digits. It was a really fun game to watch. The Lakers played pretty well on both ends of the floor, which is the first time we've been able to say that in a long time. Honey, I mean, how were the Lakers able to get this thing done?
I think it's a collection of things. Maybe the two things that changed the most in this game from kind of their poor performances are they didn't turn the ball over that much. I think they had like 9 turnovers all game, and the Grizzlies only had 10, but it's still kind of a big deal because they're usually turning the ball over like 15, 16, maybe more times every game. And then the second thing was they actually played pretty solid defense. And like Memphis isn't a great offensive team, but they have guys that could have really hurt the Lakers. Mike Conley scored 20 points, but he wasn't super efficient doing it. And I think D'Angelo Russell was a pretty big part of that. That might have been his like most complete performance of the season in terms of scoring the ball, passing the ball, and then defending on the other end. I think he might have had his best game.
Yeah, he was really good right from the start. He hit a couple threes early on, seemed to get going a little bit, and like just passing the ball extremely well. 18 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. For a while there, it looked like him and Nick Young were in a race with one another to try and break the NBA 3-point shooting record for a single game. They both got to 6 threes, I think, early in the second half, and then they didn't hit any more. The rest of the team kind of took over. But the Lakers did hit 17 out of their 33 3-point attempts tonight, so that's big. That's big to, that's, I think when you're going up against, a team that's probably just better than you, that's kind of the great equalizer, right? Being able to hit 3-point shots, because Memphis is a team that doesn't really make a lot of threes. I don't know the numbers specifically, but especially tonight, it seemed like they were kind of swapping twos for the Lakers threes. And that was kind of how the Lakers were able to kind of keep extending the lead, just kind of keep slowly pushing it out. And I think the big thing for the Lakers tonight was they avoided the disastrous quarter. They always seem to have one quarter that's just a nightmare where they get outscored by like 15 or 20 points. And they actually didn't lose a quarter tonight. They won the first quarter by 2, won the second quarter by 7, third quarter by 5, and then tied in the fourth quarter. So it was one of the more complete games that we saw from the Lakers all season, and it kind of reminded me of how they were playing earlier in the year when they started the year 10-10. But let's go back to Julius Randle. This was his third career triple-double. Just really, really impressed with him tonight. We've seen some really bright moments from him this season, followed by some moments where he kind of reverts back to form that we saw a little bit last year. What do you think his best attribute was tonight?
The passing is probably the biggest thing, especially just because it makes him such a more unique player. Getting a big guy like him who can basically beat anybody that can defend him, that's big enough to defend him off the dribble at will. Having that person be capable of also passing the ball and getting other players involved is really huge. And like you said, he had 11 assists tonight, and he only had 2 turnovers, which is also huge because he's been turning the ball over a lot recently. Being able to kind of do that and being under control is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, no, I was really impressed with just how decisive he was tonight. His decision making, he just seemed like he always kind of knew where he was going with the ball, where he needed to be, what he needed to do. He picked and chose the spots really well. I mean, he shot 9 of 15 from the field tonight. Didn't really force a lot, and it was just a great all around game from him. And it's really impressive. And the thing with Randle and his ability to kind of stuff the stat sheet right now is that he's still a relatively raw player.
Yeah.
His skill set, there's a lot of room for improvement, but he's still a pretty highly effective player, when he's playing the way he's capable of. He's still obviously got a lot of work to do when it comes to his jump shooting and his overall defense and finishing with his right hand and things like that. But what do you see as his ceiling in the NBA? I mean, because like I said, he's already, when he plays the way he's capable of, he's already an effective player. But how much better can he get?
I think he could get a lot better because you can see incremental improvements in basically everything he's done. Like his shooting numbers, not beyond the 3-point line, but his mid-range shooting numbers have improved by a ton this year. Like I was looking at the numbers maybe a couple of weeks ago, and he's shooting like 20, 30, 40 percentage points higher than he did last year, which is kind of crazy. And like the sample size is kind of small because he doesn't shoot a ton of them, but it's still pretty impressive. And then his vision has improved a ton. He's not getting into his tunnel vision and just driving to the rim all crazy. His right hand still needs plenty of work, but he's using it a lot more than he did last year. I'm kind of willing to bet that he's shot more layups with his right hand this season than he did all of last year.
It's probably not a lot, but it's definitely more.
Yeah, and like defensively, he's not great, but every once in a while he kind of shows some improvements. And Zach Lowe was tweeting during the game about how much he was kind of enjoying watching Randle play, and somebody asked him if they thought Randle could be kind of like a rim protector, small 5. And he made a good point about the game against the Hornets a couple of weeks ago where they blew a 19-point lead. They played a lot of minutes with Randle as a small ball 5, or as like a 4 and 5 next to Nance, I think.
Yeah.
And he was blocking a lot of shots. I think he had like 5 or 6 blocks in that game. And he was legitimately everywhere on defense. And he was kind of like that today too at times. So if he can kind of be consistent with all of that, then he can be a really, really good player.
Yeah, I feel like defensively with the Lakers, there's a number of players that, when they apply themselves on that end, they could be actually pretty solid,
Yeah.
But there's so many breakdowns and, it's just so much inconsistency on that end of the floor that it's pretty frustrating. When you look at, like the game against Toronto, Toronto was just getting anything they wanted. They shot 56%, I think, from the field, 57% from 3. And that was a team that kind of came in struggling a little bit. And, to see the Lakers kind of break down so much defensively. And then today, a lot of people look at points, still with, to measure defense. But, obviously Memphis scored 102, but they shot 39% from the field today. That's a huge improvement because there's been so many games where the Lakers have given up, over 50% shooting, to opposing teams, not just, individual players, but, teams. And there's times this year where the Lakers have looked like the worst defensive team I've ever seen, but but no, it was all around better today, and Randle was certainly a part of that. And when they're able to get stops, I think that just really feeds into their offense, and because they can get out and they can run a little bit, they can push the tempo a little bit more, get into their offense earlier, and just generate better looks. And I think Randle is the type of player that really thrives in that type of offense, where that you get up and you push the ball a little more, you push the pace more, and it just allows you to kind of play off the flow a little bit. And that's certainly, I think, the blueprint for this young core moving forward. But it all starts with the defensive end. So it was nice to see them start to get some stops tonight and really get out and run against what's one of the best defensive teams in the league. I think that's probably the most impressive thing I think about their performance tonight, right, is that the team they did it against.
Yeah, definitely. The Grizzlies were the number one defense in the league coming into this game. They're not a great offense, but they're a pretty decent one. And like guys like Marc Gasol is averaging like a career high in points this season. He did pretty well today, but it never felt like he was dominating the game, which is more than you can say about most star players against the Lakers. Because like you said, the Raptors game, Kyle Lowry went crazy and scored 40-something points against them. Being able to hold Gasol and Conley to that combined is kind of a win for the Lakers.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Looking at the box score here, the Grizzlies had 5 players in double figures, but when you look at the kind of the shooting percentages, Gasol was 8 of 15. Conley was 7 of 16. Zach Randolph was 3 of 12. Harrison was 1 of 3. He had 10 free throws. That's kind of strange. But and then Vince Carter was 3 of 7. And I think the biggest difference from the last time the Lakers played the Grizzlies was Troy Daniels didn't go bonkers on them this time. It looked like he was going to start the game, but the Lakers did a good job of keeping him in check this time. And that's been kind of one of those things too, where role players really seem to have like career nights against the Lakers because they've been so bad on defense. And they were finally able to kind of prevent that, and everything really seemed to work out. But another thing I wanted to talk about that kind of still has to do with Randle is early in the year, the Lakers were really kind of led by their bench, right? Their second unit before all these injuries started to pile up. And now the starters it's like they're starting to figure things out a little bit. They've been a lot better as of late. I think Luol Deng looks much better than he did to start the season, where he looked like he was about a 45-year-old dude out there trying to play in the NBA. And Russell looks a lot better, of course, now that he's healthy and things like that. When Nance comes back, I mean, do you think we'll see more games like this from the Lakers where, they're able to beat, good teams because they've got 2 lineups that are just playing more in sync than they were earlier in the year?
Yeah, not only that, but they're going to have a lot more combinations that they can play. So if they got a big guy that's not playing well, they can swap him out with another guy, and they're just going to have a lot more versatility. Like Randle and Nance have been really good together, and they don't play a ton of minutes because they're undersized and there's defensive limitations there. But that's kind of a lineup that has some promise for them. And having Nance back, it's not only just giving them more depth, but it's giving them the option to play really small and really fast. And so those kind of things, depending on matchups, is going to help. Like today wasn't a really good example of small ball lineups because they tried with Thomas Robinson and Tarek Black, since they had a really good game last time, and that didn't work out. And credit to Luke for actually pulling them out pretty quickly, because he hasn't been doing that a lot, but he was pretty quick on that trigger and bringing back the starters.
He's been kind of Phil Jackson-esque with some of the lineups this year, where it's kind of like he'll leave them out there to see if they can figure it out. And that was one thing I noticed with him tonight was the rotation was much shorter. When I'm looking at the starters' minutes, Randle played 37 minutes, Deng played 31, Mozgov played 38, Russell played 33, Nick Young 27. And then off the bench, Thomas Robinson played 4 minutes, Tarek Black played 10. Clarkson actually played pretty well. I wouldn't mind to see him get more minutes tonight. He only had 18 minutes, but he was very efficient. This was one of his better games of the year. Even he had 16 points and 7 rebounds and 3 assists. And Lou Williams was relatively quiet in his 17 minutes, but he had 14 points on 4 of 9 shooting. So yeah, the rotation was a lot shorter tonight, and I think that's something we've kind of been pushing for a little bit more. Mainly to get, I think, Randle and Russell and those young guys more minutes, because Ingram had 25 off the bench, which I think is a really good thing.
Yeah.
So I think, that's something we'll have to really keep an eye on moving forward, especially until Nance gets back. I think once he gets back, that obviously changes the rotation for the reasons like you mentioned, the different combinations that they can kind of throw out there. But no, I was happy to see the rotation kind of cut down a little bit, and the starters were more, they were just used more tonight. And that was really good to see, because this is, I think they needed a win like this, because since the start of December, they were 2-14, I believe, in December, and then they lost the Raptors game and won this one. So since then, it's been really bad. They were 10-10, and they've just been in a free fall ever since. But no, it's crazy to think about this, but is there still a chance that the Lakers could actually be in the playoffs, because they've played so poorly with such a difficult schedule, and it's going to somewhat even out at some point. And they're only really, I think, 4 games out. So they're still really not too far out. Is it something that is still feasible at this point?
I think it's definitely possible. I wouldn't bank on it. I've kind of just given up on the playoffs at this point. But like you said, it's only 4 games. With however many there's left to go, there's 50-something left to go.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely plenty of time. And like you said, the schedule is going to get a lot easier as the year goes on, just because they've had probably the toughest schedule in the league so far.
Yeah.
Going to have a lot more home games, not going to have as many against really good teams. So, yeah, they should be able to close out the season strong. Whether that means they get to the playoffs or not, I don't know. But the bottom of the West is kind of terrible, that 8th seed. So they definitely had a chance.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, because they've played so poorly and they're still right there. Because whoever the 8th seed in the West is this year is probably going to be a team that, if they are above 500, it's only by a couple games. But right now it's looking like it's a team that's going to be pretty considerably under 500. So
it's the Kings right now at 15-19.
Yeah, and really, you're just playing to try and get swept by Golden State in the first round. So it would be fun.
Marcelo Huertas plays.
It would be a lot of fun to see this group get some playoff action and get that experience. But yeah, no, I'm more focused on this team just continuing to show signs of improvement. Whether it's defensively or whether it's individually, like seeing Brandon Ingram, start to knock down shots, and, Clarkson, not forcing the issue, and Russell starting to just play better overall, which he has here lately. He's played pretty dang well. So, it's still kind of crazy that we're talking playoffs at this point, but maybe in a couple months, maybe at the end of February, maybe early March, if we're still sitting in a similar spot, we can talk about it. But let's just kind of keep rooting for development and improvement, more consistency with this team moving forward. So, it was a fun night. It was a fun night. Everybody was hitting shots, even the dude that shot the half-court shot between the third and fourth quarter banked in his half-court shot. So it was it was the Lakers.
Did you see Bill Oram's tweet about that?
No.
I got to find it to read the exact thing. But he basically just trolled every Lakers fan and kind of ruined the night.
Yeah, it was it was definitely the Lakers' night. It was like I said, one of their best wins of the season. But we'll see if they can build off of this. I'd like to think that they could, but this has been quite the roller coaster ride of a half a season with this team. So their next game is Thursday at Portland. So that's going to be tough. That's on TNT. Hope we don't get Reggie Miller for that game, but
We will.
it's kind of the price you pay when you get Kevin Harlan, I guess. You can't have it too good. So, but yeah, no, we were talking about the Lakers schedule, and I just wanted to throw this out there real quick. And I tweeted it out earlier, but the Lakers have played 38 games now, and 25 of those 38, if the season ended today, would have been against playoff teams, like teams that are in the top 8 in the East and the West. And they've played more road games than home games. And like looking at their upcoming schedule, they're at Portland, but then they get 3 straight home games against Miami, Orlando, Portland, and then they got 2 tough ones at San Antonio, at the Clippers. But then they get a group of home games again, so the Detroit, Denver, Indiana. At Dallas is probably a loss because for whatever reason we cannot beat the Dallas Mavericks. But no, the January schedule is much more favorable than what we saw in December. And it's going to start to even out a little bit more, even though the Lakers have a stretch in February where they play, I believe, 7 out of 8 games on the road. So, but like we were talking about playoffs, I guess if they want to stay in that discussion, if they just stay close going into March, their schedule is loaded with a ton of home games from that point on. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. You kind of have to take it one quarter at a time with this group because you never know what you're going to get. So, but nights like tonight are fun. They're a lot of fun. You don't really think about, trades at the deadline, Lakers Twitter panicking, tanking for a top pick, whatever. You just enjoy the win. So, I think that's going to do it for us this time, unless you had anything else you wanted to touch on before we sign off.
Let me just read the ORM tweet.
Oh, okay.
Just so we don't get too happy. Dude's name was Gerald, the guy that won, $995,000. ORM's tweet is, "Don't get too excited for Gerald. He would have to bury 758 half-court shots to earn as much money as Luol Deng will be paid over the next 4 years."
Oh, that's depressing. That is depressing. We're not even going to go into Luol Deng on year 3 or year 4 of the contract because, that's going to be bad. But no, on the bright side, it wasn't. Was it the worst contract given out? Evan, your boy Evan Turner got over $70 million. So.
Shout out to my boy. Get paid, Evan.
Okay, be honest. Is that why you changed your Twitter @ so he couldn't hit you with that anymore?
Maybe partially. That way, if I heckle him, he can't figure out something else to say.
All right, that's going to do it for us this time. Hani, what is your new Twitter @ I forget what it is.
It's @HONIAHM. That's my first name and then the 3 first letters of my last name.
That's almost as original as mine, which is @GaryKester. So yeah, you can follow us both on there. You can follow us @Lakers Outsiders on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook. You can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and on iTunes. For all of our content, like I said, LakersOutsiders.com. Honey, this has been fun getting back on here. I know most of us are college students, so we had finals week and then the holiday season and all that. So we'll have to man up and be a little bit better at getting on here more consistently. So, but no, thanks to everybody that tuned in. I don't think anybody really sent us any questions, which is kind of weird. Usually we have a boatload of those, but first podcast back. We're rusty.
Well, Drew sent us one, but we're gonna ignore him.
Yeah. Drew is just fired. Drew, yeah, you're fired, Drew. It's gonna do it for us. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Like I said, you can follow all of our content on those social media outlets. And Thursday's the next game. Hopefully we'll have a podcast up after that one. And we'll see you next time.